Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Brownsville Matters. Have with us today Snow, who is a nurse practitioner at Valley Regional Hospital here in Brownsville, specializes in cardiology. And so we're going to learn a lot about getting healthier hearts. Welcome, Snow.
Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
What is the advice that you find yourself giving to people over and over again? Not necessarily people who have problems with their heart, but to healthy people to stay healthy. What do you, based upon your experience in the field, what's the advice you often give? Or 3 bits of advice. Don't smoke.
To be honest, like you said, yeah, right. The advice, they will be cover a variety of fields, right?
Sure.
Like, first of all, you will have to realize how much risk factor you have for your heart problems, issues. Of course, there are 2 separate categories, like modifiable or non-modifiable.
Okay.
So non-modifiable, like, for example, you're aging. I cannot bring you back to 5 years old, 10 years old, right? Genetically, I really cannot change anything. So modifiable, like you're diabetic, of course you're gonna control your sugar level, because we all know when the sugar level goes super high, your whole body system gets inflamed. So supposedly your veins and arteries is very, very smooth inside, but once your body gets very inflamed and it gets like very bumpy, like you're riding a bumpy road, and then any type of little storms and sand and stuff can stuck over there, and overall it's gonna accumulate, and then it creates plaques, and then finally it's gonna build up, and then finally it's going to be making what we call the stenosis.
So inflammation is, the major culprit we're trying to kill, so to speak. You want to stay away from inflammation,
yes.
And lots of things cause inflammation.
Yes.
Sugar causes
sugar,
inflammation.
Smoking
Causes inflammation.
Even the stress level.
But some people say, who are smokers, they say, but if I don't smoke, I'll have stress, which will cause inflammation, And,
well, there will have to be a balance.
There'll have to be a balance of
yes, between if you want to get heart disease or if you want to have the stress. But I had a patient actually asking me yesterday. We were at an event, and he was asking me if there is a electrical, like nicotine cigarette, will be okay for transition. If you wanted to quit the smoking, which is a good idea. I'm not totally 100% agree with the electrical smoker, because they do have a nicotine. But in the transition for a short period of time to make your body to do the adjustment, then which is perfectly fine. And then over time, you just cut in the dose, and then finally your body adjusting to your command, say, okay, I'm going to quit smoking, so quit giving me trouble.
Well, I quit smoking about 25 years ago, and I was terrible at it because I quit like 18 times unsuccessfully. But when I finally quit successfully, for me at least, it was a disciplined cold turkey, where I just stopped. Oh. But then I gave up the things that caused me to smoke. Coffee. I had to quit coffee. I didn't drink any alcohol for a long time, because as soon as you have 2 or 3 beers, you say, it doesn't matter, who cares? Yeah. And so your willpower is killed. And so I had to, and then I would go to sleep early. So if I go to sleep at 9, then I obviously won't smoke when I'm asleep. so I would just, change my whole lifestyle to accommodate that. And then I also stayed away from people who smoked.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because they're a real bad influence. They're the ones that are saying, come on, have one. It's not going to hurt you.
Yes.
But it's the worst thing I ever did, I think, in my life health-wise was to smoke. And then the best thing I ever did was to quit. Because it's been 25 years now, and everything. Lungs are good. Lots. I'm sure there's some damage, no doubt. And I think a lot of smokers live with the idea that if they quit, they'll get back to normal. But you never do, right?
No.
The damage is done.
Yes.
But you can get much, much better.
Yes. Your body has a self-healing system. Yeah. Not completely recover if you smoke in a really long time. My experience of my dad, when I was in the nursing school, I was 14, 15 years old actually. So when we study about this lung disease and smoking not good and this and that, so I told right away after my class, I called my dad. I said, Dad, you know what? The smoking is not good for your heart, not good for your lungs, so please quit. And you know what he did?
What?
He did right away.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's really unusual.
20-something years old, smoking. He quit right away, but of course he had some hard time in the beginning. He carried some sugar candies and tried to have his, occupied.
Fix.
Yes. And then sometimes he buy cigarette, but he gave it to other people and smell.
Smell it. Yeah,
Yes.
it's amazing the sorts of things that. One of the things I miss was just the ritual, just the packing the pack and pulling it out, and like you say, smelling it, and then I had a collection of lighters. You get into all the accoutrements that make the ritual attractive. For women, they have a pretty cigarette case, and so and it gives them to do with your hands.
Yes.
All sorts of things.
And put them back of the ear, looking cool.
Or they go to a movie where people are smoking and it looks so attractive in the movie. Now you're from China.
Yes.
And how long were you in China how many years did you spend there growing up?
I was born and raised in China.
Yeah.
I came here 7 years ago.
Oh, just 7 years.
Yes, 7 years.
I'm supposing that you learned a great deal of English there.
I starting to learn English over there because my last job was was in a private clinic, basically foreign clinic. It's called a Parkway Health, based in Singapore. So 90% of our clients are foreigners that stationed in China, business, travelers, and everything. It was a challenging for learning English. So I work mainly, again, with cardiovascular as well. So we have all sort of procedures and questions and stuff. So I would listing all those problems and translate it in English, and then I would read it to my patient. I will tell them, please do not ask me questions because I probably don't know how to answer you, but you need to tell me if you understand me or not.
Well, nothing works like immersion, right? You come here and you must. Well, and I suppose given what you do, you probably have some facility in Spanish too now.
Yes, I do. I'm trying to practice my Spanish as well. Like my Spanish name is Nieve.
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 Yeah. Snow, Nieve.
So Nieve, my patient call me Nievecita, Nieve de Chocolate, Nieve Blanca, all sort of names.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. In the beginning, it was really a struggle because I always have to carry my Google Translator for the language. We do have a language services in Valley Regional, but sometimes when the case is getting like very, very intense or something, the translator is not very efficient at that moment. So I would have to use my translator, or I would have to bring someone into the room that helping me for the translation, so we can be more efficient, because sometimes you know how the patient's condition changes, like in seconds, just seconds. So, yeah, but it was really a good experience.
You went to medical school in China?
Yes.
Were you a doctor in China?
No, I was a nurse, yes.
Okay. Because there are a lot of people who come from other countries that are doctors, and then they come and get recertified, here.
Yes.
Since we're talking about smoking is much more common in China, isn't it, than here? Or has it changed over the past 20 years or so? Has it been the same? The cessation of smoking has been just as successful in China as here?
I don't see the statistics, so I cannot really tell you if it's worse there or worse here. But I do see more people smoking with my experience over there.
Over there, yeah. That's why I bring it up, because when I see the image of a street in China, and I see a lot of men smoking. I mean, I don't mean 90%, but more than is common. Of course, when I was growing up here, I would say probably of the men, probably 70% of the men I knew smoked, and I remember working on the ranch where I'd be riding in the cab between two men, and they'd both be smoking, and I'd be smoking too, even though I was 15. Because I remember when I first learned about secondhand smoking being dangerous.
Yes.
I thought it was crazy. I thought, what? How could that be? I mean, they're not even the one inhaling the smoke really in an intense form. And I thought it was crazy, really. And then I started seeing the science and reading the studies and hearing about people who had severe health problems. I mean, I know I have an ex-student of mine who died of lung cancer, and he never smoked. He worked in a bar. And because he worked in a bar, he inhaled it for years.
Yeah, secondhand.
And he died of cancer from secondhand smoke. What do you think of these, speaking of Google, there's some pretty cool apps that you can get for heart monitoring or on these. I've heard that some doctors even just, plug into their phone to listen to heart rate and stuff like that. What do you think of those sorts of programs?
I personally have tried one of the little device that you put your finger on the little device, both of them. They actually show you the 12 leads EKG.
Right.
So, of course, this is not going to be a diagnostic, but they will give you some general information about your, heart function.
Rate,
yes.
and whether you're
if you're arrhythmia or regular or irregular, yes.
Yeah, I've tried several of them. I think I still have one here on my phone, and they seem to be. They don't tell you blood pressure or anything, but they at least tell you rate and rhythm.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot that's available here for monitoring your health day to day, plus the recording of information. If you are recording your blood pressure, you can put it in each day and keep a record.
I have I don't know if you heard, I have an Apple phone, Apple Watch.
Right.
On the side of the little device, you put your finger there, they can actually show you the EKG. Yeah.
On the Apple Watch?
Yes, yes. I have used that because I had when I was in school with my nurse practitioner, it's very stressful. So I had pretty much a year at least. I had a arrhythmia, like a PACs and stuff like that. So I feel palpitation all the time. So sometimes I would check and I would send this data to my cardiologist.
And they put you on a beta blocker?
I did actually. I did actually had a beta blocker for 6 or 7 months, and then finally I was titrating down, and finally I was able to get rid of it.
And but it was all caused by stress.
Yes,
the stress of the medical school.
Right? Yes, exactly, and especially the English. I mean the language and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not easy.
You went to medical school there, and I suppose you have done some training here as well in the States. Where did you go to school here?
UTRGV.
Oh, right here.
Yes.
Right here locally,
yes. For the nurse practitioner program.
We've had our medical school now for 10 years, right?
The
medical school here at UTRGV.
School of medicine for the doctors, right?
Yeah, right. It was formed, I think, in 2015 or 16. As soon as the two UT Brownsville and Pan Am were put together as one university. The medical school came right in. They created it almost immediately. So I think about 10 years now. So already it seems brand new, but already 10 years has gone by.
There's still some adjustment, but I think it's a good school and good program.
Well, I think it's the newest medical school in the country because it's so expensive to create them, right?
Yes.
And when you went to that program, is it a generalist program or do you specialize in some way? Do you get to choose as a nurse practitioner, I'm going to focus in cardiology or I'm going to focus in athletic medicine or whatever,
The nurse practitioner program in UTRGV right now, they have family nurse practitioner only. They are still trying to developing other areas like a pediatric or acute care, but still developing. But the family nurse practitioner is being running very well. So yes, I was there as a family nurse practitioner.
So here at Valley Regional, where you are daily involved with cardiology patients, what do you see as the most common presenting symptoms that people come in with? What's the kind of primary struggle that we have with cardiology in our cardiological problems here in the Valley?
I think the very important part on the cardiology side is general population, the understanding of the disease, the cardiovascular disease. Because I was feeling very, very sad when I was actually doing the open heart surgery pre-assessment. I have to do a calculation score, see if it's high risk or moderate risk or okay risk to do that procedure. So
is this for bypass surgery?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I do realize that a lot of patients, they are pretty young, like 50s and 60s. Wow. Yeah. So what happened is like...
is this weight related? A lot of them are overweight, or is that an effect of the condition?
It's the general condition. Mm-hmm. Some they do have a diabetic. Some they have already dialysis, the kidney disease. Wow. Some they don't have nothing at all, but they come in with a heart blockage and heart attack, and then we have to take an emergency bypass surgery. Then we'll try to ask them, what was the last time you actually check on with your cardiologist before this happened? A lot of time they will tell me, oh, I don't remember, like 2 years, 3 years ago.
Probably more.
Yeah. So I would just feel very sad because I am living here 7 years already. So I see this community as my second home already. So I really hoping we can do something about it. Valley Regional, we are doing a lot of events. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, I think a few months later on, we're going to have a heart walk in the Sunrise Mall. So we just introduce all those heart health and everything. And then yesterday, 2 days ago, I was at a TSC to teaching hands-on CPR. So all sorts of like events, try to introduce the public that the cardiovascular disease is like a number one killer in adults population in the United States. So every year...
Even more than diabetes?
Yes. Every year is like the most recent number was like 800,000 people have a heart attack every year in the United States. Like half of them are second time experiencing the heart attack. So it's just a general information. We will have to educate the community so we can, somehow we be able to take care of them.
Well, so I go back to the question I asked you in the beginning is that, obviously you can't make people take your advice, but if you had your way, you would say, in order not to get to where you have a heart attack in order not to get to the point that you have cardiovascular disease. What do they do at age 25 or 30 so that they don't get there? Obviously, you got to eat better, right? Check your cholesterol, know what it is.
Definitely. And I know that in general society, everybody's got a lot of stress. We will just have to learn how to manage the stress. And I see, I'm not trying to offending anybody,
No.
but I do see a lot of overweight, the populations. But,
And I blame our climate. I mean, we have a horrible climate for exercise. It's always hot and humid. It's difficult to get out and do it.
Yeah.
But if you go to the mall in the morning, there's a good number of walkers
Yes.
all the time. They'll do 2 or 3 miles, and that's great. It's air conditioned. It's free, and that's one way. We have lots of gyms. Like I go to the gym at the university, and really, there's not very many people there. During the middle of the day when students are there, there's a good number. But early in the morning when I go at 8, there's maybe 3 or 4 people in there. And they've got this wonderful indoor track where you can run or walk. I heard a guy yesterday, a doctor, saying that he said 8,000 steps. You need a minimum of 8,000 steps a day. You need to walk, and he said if you do 2,000, it's not good. It's not good enough. It's better than nothing, but you need to have 8,000 steps, and 8,000 is best. He said 10,000 has been that magic number for a long time, and he said a lot of people have trouble getting there, but he said just 8. Just the walking is wonderfully helpful for long-term benefits.
Yes, definitely.
What do you say to that? Is that good? Is that good advice?
I mean, I think it's good, but again, to me, I wanted to look in at everything as a whole system.
Okay.
Yes, because I was on the medical floor. I was working at an ICU as well. We've been busy, like a 12-hour shift.
12 hours?
Yes. So I have my watch to tracking my steps. The highest step I had was 13,000.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm just running around, helping patients, this and that. But because of my life, like a working schedule, school schedule, being a single mother, taking care of her kids schedule is very stressful to me. So I still gain weight.
Yeah.
I watching my diet, I still gain weight. So what I'm thinking is just we have to combine all together. Yeah, just like
But you're not overweight.
I'm not, but I'm like very, very above my baseline.
Okay.
When I first came from China to here, I was below 100 pounds. Okay, but now I'm almost, I don't want to tell you.
It's the tacos.
Yes, I blame it on the tacos as well, and the fajitas.
And the fajitas, right? And so your diet really is very different from what it was in China, right?
Yes.
So what do you eat more of here? Like, for instance, I had a student from China that came many years ago. I remember writing letters to the U.S. Embassy to get her a visa student visa so she could come. Yeah. And she would bring me food. She was from, I'm not sure how to say it, Zhengzhou.
郑州.
There you go. And she would bring me rice and chicken, but there was hardly any chicken. I would say, "Where's the meat?" And she said, "Well, that's the way we eat it. We just have a very little bit of meat to spice up the rice." And of course, she was very thin, and as most every Chinese, Taiwanese person I've ever met, they're all very fit and thin.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the? I don't know what they call it exactly, but sometimes they call it the Asian Challenge, although the challenge isn't for Asians, it's for Americans. And it's if you take typical Asian who's like 60 years old, and you ask them to squat and stand up, they can do it. You know, they
Yes.
can all do it.
Yes.
And most Americans cannot
Yes.
at that age. They can't squat, and it's very interesting. You know that flexibility and strength difference exists.
I think it's because of the cultural.
I think so.
Again, I don't know if you know that in China, a lot of places, even nowadays, they don't have the toilet like we have. You can sit down. No, there's just a hole on the floor,
Yes.
and you have to squat. Otherwise, how are we gonna do it?
and often eat in a squatting position, right? Or
Yeah.
getting on the floor and then back up.
Yes.
Yeah. So you get a lot of exercise in in that regard. So, but also weight.
Yes.
You know, obviously, if you're thinner, that's an easier thing to do than if you're overweight. And you know, Americans tend not only to be overweight when they're 30, they're more overweight. You know, when they're 60. So anyway, we all know these things, but the problem is the will to do anything, you know, about it. What do you think of like statins as a cholesterol lowering drug? Do you think those are good drugs? I take them. So,
That's why you ask.
no, I've read very positive things about them, that they have very few side effects and they are really good at reducing, you know, bad cholesterol.
Yes. They're very good at reducing the good cholesterol. I mean, bad cholesterol, I'm sorry. The LDL, which we'll call LDL, which is bad cholesterol. And increasing your level of good cholesterol. But of course, there are side effects. That's why when you're taking the statin, the doctor always wanted to check on the liver function, because they go through the liver to digest and absorb by your body.
Well, what for you? I mean, a lot of people, it would be best if you could manage these things with diet alone and not have to take pharmaceuticals at all. But based on what you know of medications that help with having a better heart and better cardiovascular system, statins seem to be a very promising, and they have a good success profile, I would say. What other things do you know of in the pharmaceutical area that you see as kind of magical in their effects?
To be honest, I don't see any magical stuff. It's because to me, all medication, I in general, I don't like to take medications.
Yeah, you want them to be a temporary solution,
Yes.
I suppose, right?
Yes, like the medication you mentioned earlier, like ACE inhibitor, this thing. So those medications, they are kidney protectors. They not regulating your heart rate or blood pressure, but also to protecting your kidneys. But of course, on long run, no. So that's why, yes, I do prefer putting my patient on the medication, but I do prefer them to do some adjustment by themselves. Like, for example, if your health is like a 10, like a score of 10 out of 10, right?
Right.
I wanted to do only 2 or 3, because it's not like I don't want to do my job. I want to do my job. I like to helping people. But I want you to do all the job so you can actually get yourself back to shape and off of the medication. So I don't see you in the hospital. You know, we need a business, but we don't need this type of business, right?
But the advances made in cardiology have been phenomenal in the past 30 years. My father died of a heart attack about 40 years ago. And if he had had that same heart attack today, he'd probably been saved.
Yeah.
You know, and also he probably would have been put on a stress test, and it would have predicted it, you know, earlier.
Yes.
So there's a lot of advances that make it. Well, for instance, I used to hear that someone was taken to the hospital with a heart attack when I was a kid, and I figured it was about a 50-50 shot for them. You know, so many of them died. So they would took him. He had a heart attack, took him to the hospital, and they would often die. And now, if I hear that, I say, "Oh, they'll save him." You know, and I fully expect them to be saved. It's rare when they're not. If they get there
In time.
in the golden hour, so to speak.
Yes.
Same thing with the strokes.
Yes.
Do you deal with strokes?
I was actually working the stroke floor. I was a charge nurse
Oh,
for 3
my.
years.
Oh, yeah. So you know.
Yes.
And so those clot-busting drugs have really saved a lot of people, right?
Yes. Yes. So the stroke and then the heart attack basically working the same mechanism, right? It's just forming the clots and making the blockage. If it clots in your brain, then you're gonna have a stroke. If it clots in your heart, then you have a heart attack. So yeah, for this part, I really proud that the very original, because we have a chest pain accreditation, like certification, and we also have a PCI accreditation, which is this is the certification for the cath lab, that when you have a heart attack, they take you to the cath lab to do a procedure, to do the intervention. So this is the certification that's very, very hard to get, and we are the only one in the whole valley, up to the Houston actually.
Oh, not even McAllen has it?
No.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yes.
How long do you have, if you have a stroke, how long do you have before you have damage that's permanent generally? But I mean, how many hours you got as leeway before you get that clot-busting drug that'll save you?
So in general, we wanted to do like within 60 minutes, but we do have a window of 3 hours. But we try to do it as soon as possible.
Of course, yes.
And we had two cases actually. We have done it's like 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. And you can see the tremendous change. He was not able to talk, was not able to raise any hands, a leg, and feel all kinds of sensation. And after the medication, a few minutes, he was able to tell the doctor what is his name, where he come from, why he's here, what is the date and time right now. Yeah, it was.
Is that
really
given
magical.
is that given as an IV?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But could you give it? I mean, you want it as an IV because it's fast, right?
It's IV, so they can actually travel to the
To
place.
the place where
Yes.
the clot is. Okay.
Yes.
There's. I read a book by a woman who was. She was. I believe she was a neurologist herself, and she had a stroke at home. And this is kind of a famous book. It came out about 10 years ago, because she was a brain doctor writing about a brain stroke, but she was at home alone when she had the stroke. She said that it was kind of like having a dream, because everything was dreamlike, but she couldn't control the dream. And she realized that she was having a stroke, and she called her secretary, but she couldn't talk.
Yes.
So the secretary gets this call from her, but nothing. There's no noise. And so she keeps calling and keeps trying to talk, but she can't talk. And so finally her secretary figures out something's wrong. And she goes over there to check on her and realizes, and then they get her to the hospital. But her whole book is about her having a stroke as a neurologist and explaining what it was like to have a stroke. And how she even described it as beautiful. She said that the dreamlike effect of it was in some ways incredibly peaceful, but of course at the same time terribly frustrating, because she knew what was going on and she couldn't get help for herself. The other problem was she couldn't even remember 911. She couldn't. She just had the speed dial for her secretary, and she said that she thought even that was kind of accidental that she could get to her. So very. I wish I could remember the name of the book. It's a great book. I remember she was on tour on all the TV stations and everything.
Interesting. Yeah, we do see a lot of patients. It really depending on where the stroke part happens, in which brain. In which part of your brain, and then because each part is control your sensation, control your vision, control your motor action.
So if you see the X-ray of where the clot is, when do you say, "Oh, that's good. It's there instead of there"? Is it better if it's on the right side than the left side? Is there a better outcome?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Because once you have, if you have a stroke of course, on the brainstem or something, and then it controls everything, and then you definitely not good. You're not able to regulating your temperature. You're not gonna be able to breathe. You're not gonna, it's just it just really depending on which area of the stroke happens.
Is there anything that you could do for yourself? If you were having a stroke and you're alone, is there anything you could do for yourself to improve your chances of survival? I mean, like taking aspirin, or is there anything like that would be helpful?
For the stroke, it's really
nothing.
No.
Just get help.
Yes.
911.
Yes, just get help. Yes.
That's the best that you can do.
Yes.
Are you going to stay here in the States?
For now, yes. Yes, that's my plan for now. If there are good reasons for me to stay, yes, definitely I will stay.
How did you come here, from Singapore? How did you say, okay, Brownsville, that's where I'm going to go? How did that happen?
It's a long story.
Okay. It was always interesting. Go ahead.
I was from mainland China.
Yes.
I was born in Hunan province.
Okay.
I don't know if you know Chairman Mao.
Yes.
Where he come from.
Oh, yeah.
And then went to Beijing, the capital city, for my nursing school. And then worked there for a few years, 8 years. And then went to Shanghai, which is the economy center in China as well. 8 years over there. Had met someone online from Brownsville.
Okay, there we go.
And then, so my mother-in-law was very, very sick. So I suggest we need to come back to take care of her because, okay, now he is my ex, okay. So I told him, I say, you don't want to regret because you're the only son.
Right.
And your mom was really magical lady because she had uterus cancer before she got pregnant.
Oh.
Magically, she actually died. And I saw the death certificate later on. I saw it. And she was even telling me the story. She died and she become like floating on the air in the unit. Yes, the doctor was sitting on the table to write in a death certificate, and everybody was crying. The nurse was clean her and covered her with a white blanket. But she was talking to an angel.
And then she came back.
She was talking to an angel, and angel was asking her, say, "Hey, Nympha, are you ready to go?" She says, "Well, my baby only 5 months, and I'm not ready." So she told me, she says the angel was paused actually, and for a few seconds, and then he was telling her, he says, "Well, okay, just go back then," and then she woke up. So yeah, I was telling my ex, I said, your mom is magical, and she has bad Alzheimer right now. So, all the cancer treatment and stuff made her very vulnerable. She always have an infection, and so I say, you really don't want to regret. So then we decide to come. Yeah, that's
a beautiful story.
Yeah. I took care of her and until the last day, and then I moved out. That's it.
Well, thank you for telling me how you got here. Yeah, I was thinking of that Shanghai. There used to be an expression I'd hear a lot when I was younger. Men would say, "I got Shanghaied." You ever heard that?
I heard, but yeah. I really don't know what does that mean.
Well, I think it comes from the old. When sailors would get taken to be a sailor on a ship that they didn't want to be a part of. They used to actually kidnap people and take them and say, okay, you're going to work for us now, kind of like slave labor on the seas. I'm talking about 1800s and all that sort of thing.
Right.
And so evidently Shanghai was a place where this could happen to you. You get shanghaied, you get drunk in the bars, and pretty soon you're on a ship, and you say, well, welcome to hard labor, buddy.
I guess Shanghai is a port city.
Port city, yes. They got
so
Shanghai.
A lot of people try to escape or something. They stop in Shanghai and then they ship them somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. But Shanghai wasn't the only place. Back in the early 1800s, British ships used to, they would take an American ship and then they would take the sailors off of it. And if they couldn't prove they were an American citizen, and many of them were American citizens, but it was a time people didn't carry passports, and they'd say, well, then you're going to work for us. And so they just put them to work for the British Navy.
Yeah.
And even the British Navy did that. They would take people off the streets of London and just kind of draft them, so to speak. Say, okay, we need you as a sailor. You're 18, time for you to serve your country.
But I mean, talking about Shanghai, one day, if you have not visited, you should visit because Shanghai was colonized by a lot of countries before. So they have places that you go, you don't feel like you're in China. You feel like they have a French session, they have a Spanish session, they have a Russian session.
Oh, how interesting.
So if you go all those little sessions, you feel like, am I in France? Or am I in Spain?
Well, it's like, you go to San Francisco, there's Chinatown. So you can go through Chinatown and feel kind of like you're in China. Or you go to Houston, and they've got those little areas where the Asian area and the Indian, the Eastern Indian, and Nigerian, the little subcultures have their neighborhoods. So I've seen pictures of Shanghai. It's enormous. It's an enormous city with skyscrapers all over. Yes. Yeah.
It's beautiful. So if you have not checked it out, you need to check it out.
And China was really aggressive with COVID. I mean, that was. I know it caused a lot of stress for the people who were not happy about being locked up. Where they just closed off cities and stay in your room. Wow.
It was really stressful. Yeah. I had friends had to escape.
I'm sure. Would have never worked here. We had a kind of a light quarantine, but. I suppose you worked through that at the hospital, right?
Yes, it was a war.
Oh, sure.
War zone, especially when I was in the ICU, like a critical care. Oh, my goodness. You're basically in the center of the crisis.
The war zone, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you were, well, a lot of the COVID effect was cardiovascular, right?
Cardiovascular and the kidneys.
The kidneys.
Yes. And a lot of patients, they post-COVID, they came back with either stroke or heart attack or end-stage renal disease that they needed dialysis. Yeah.
So why didn't you use ivermectin?
What was that?
Ivermectin. It was supposed to be the magical cure. Out in the world, everybody kept saying, "Ivermectin is the cure," and the research doctors were saying, "No, it has no effect whatsoever." But it became a political issue, with people saying, "This is the magic drug," and the doctors won't use it because they can't make any money. Crazy.
I believe we did some trials per family request, but because of the trial, of course, the family and patient did consent for this medication treatment and stuff. But to be honest, we did not see any improvement.
Effect. Yeah, they did some really large controlled studies, just to satisfy the people that were saying it worked, and there was no effect.
Yeah.
So, but boy, talk about the conspiracy theories running wild with this. I mean, still to this day. You remember last week when they had the nationwide test of the emergency texting system or something where all the phones went off across the country?
Yes.
Remember last week?
Yes.
So there was also the thing predicting, the conspiracy theory saying that when that goes off, it's going to connect to the inoculation that you got for COVID, and you'll become like a zombie.
Oh my goodness.
It'll cause a stroke. So just crazy stuff.
It is. I mean, again, for the COVID stuff, is also depending on the people. If you have because it's a virus, so it basically attacks attacking your immune system. So if you don't have much comorbidity, then you have a little higher chance to get over it if your symptom is not that severe.
Well, there was one that. Overweight was a problem, right? If you were overweight, you were more at risk than if you weren't.
Supposedly, yes, because this is one of the comorbidity. But again,
yeah, I mean, inevitably, there are some.
Yes.
There's always the outliers,
Yes.
and people often point to those, say, well, that contradicts this central tendency, but it doesn't really. I mean, the central tendency exists because the data's there and shows it.
Yes. But again, this is something that's really new to human beings, right? To mankind. So there is not really nobody can tell you that, we do have a cure for all the COVID
Right.
patients. No, we can't.
Yeah.
But nobody can say that.
Yeah.
It's really depending on your own immune system, on your mindset and everything. Yeah.
Well, I tell you this, I grew up in the age of polio, and as soon as there was a polio shot, my mother had me there to get the polio shot, and I got tetanus shots, and I got, I'm a believer in inoculation. So as soon as that came around, that was available and reasonably tested, I was in line to get it.
Yes, a lot of people asking, why do I get a vaccination, but why still get a COVID? But they have to understand the vaccination is not a cure.
Yeah, that's right. It's just
It's a
protection.
prevention, a protection. If you are getting a COVID, you might be having less symptoms, and your body might be able to helping to healing. Yeah.
Well,
so
I'm triple vaxxed, and I never got it. And I wore my mask, and I was reasonably careful, but I wasn't exceptionally careful. It's like when I went to Africa, I took medicine for malaria, and I never got malaria.
that's perfect.
You know what I'm
That
saying?
means your body has a very strong immune
So-
system.
Hope so. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Snow, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you coming in and talking with us. We learned a great deal here.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
for having me.
Glad you came to us from China. Welcome.
Thank you. I just hoping that we can do more for the community.
Well, we will.
For the health.
I think the walks and just conversations like this that help people understand the sensible things they can do is very, very useful. So
It is.
appreciate your coming in, and let's do it again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this BSPA video. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe if you like what you see. And if you really like what you see, go ahead and go to our website, brosoperformingarts.org, and smash the donate button. And then we'll really like you too.